Welcome to the Buick Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Sheldon, and on this podcast, we dive deep into the outdoors. We discuss hunting and fishing techniques, give you tips and tricks, tell stories, and everything in between to help you enjoy the outdoors. This podcast is brought to you by Rampage Coffee. Rampage Coffee is crafted in micro batches to produce a premium quality coffee that is just not possible any other way. Step up your coffee game and get amped with premium quality freshly roasted coffee. Right now I'm waiting on the sampler bundle where you get to try all 4 blends for around $20. It comes with a full force premium espresso, Code Black dark roast, Riot medium roast, the C4 extreme caffeine blend, and it also comes with some pretty cool looking stickers. If you head over to rampagecoffee.com and use our promo code Buick, you'll receive 10% off. That's rampagecoffee.com, promo code BUICK to get 10% off and get amped with Rampage Coffee. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Buick Outdoors podcast. If you're new here, my name is Sheldon, and I'm your host. I want to quickly touch up on something here just to kind of start things off. There was a news outlet here in Fort St. John that they put up a little story that I thought was very interesting and more people should be aware of it. What they did was a little shady and it was kind of weird, but anyways, they put out a story saying that wolves would have to be cut back by 80% for this caribou recovery. What that means is that there would be 3 wolves per 1,000 square kilometers. And that is what they're saying is needed to save the caribou population. One thing that kind of jerked me though, I must have just seen it as it was coming up because I was able to click on it. I was able to read it. But then I went to comment on it and share it, and I couldn't. So they put it up. I think they had a couple clicks on it or whatever, and then they pulled it down right away or set it to private. But then later on that evening, after they published another 10 or so articles and stuff, then they put it back to public. So in that way it's still a story that's available, but it is buried way down into the archives kind of thing for the day. So it really didn't get to see the light of day, and it just kind of irked me the wrong way. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's just the way kind of media works these days. There's a lot of miscommunication and misleading info. Unfortunately, in this case, it was actually good information. They just chose to hide it, kind of a thing. And it's, I kind of understand it because they don't want to have a lot of negative comments on their platform. But in the same sense, that is something that should have been well, it's not like they just deleted it or whatever. It is still open to the public, but they hid it. So it's, yeah. But anyways, I got that off my chest. If you want to read that article, I believe I put it up on our Buick Outdoors Facebook page. I'll double check to make sure that's up there again. You'll probably have to go and search for it now. But yeah. We just got our 550 Tundra delivered here. Dad was on his way out to cut up some firewood, so I sent him money for that. He dropped it off here just the other day, and I'm getting pretty excited about that. I fired it up, I topped it up with fuel. The cheap bugger there, he didn't put any fuel in it. Gave me an empty sled, But that's alright, I'll pick on him some other time. But yeah. I topped her up with gas, drove around the house a few times, took it up to the rodeo grounds and back. And, yeah, the thing, it runs pretty good. I can't wait to pretty well get myself into trouble with that around Buick. There's definitely a lot of places that I want to go to. There's lots of places around here where it's just a little too muskeggy and swampy and stuff. I really don't want to take my side-by-side into. Also, there's a lot of like creek crossings and stuff once you get kind of way out back, kind of a thing. So it can be a little iffy and a little sketchy at times during the summer months, but in the winter times, I'll just bring the sleigh with me and a shovel, and if I have to, I'll treat it like back in our trapping days where if there's real steep creek banks, you pretty well just grab your shovel, you shovel in a bunch of snow, you pack it down, you drive over it a few times with the snowmobile, and it sets up like concrete. It's a wicked easy way to get over them creek crossings where in the summer, like there'll be some spots where it's hard to even get across them on foot, let alone bring a machine in there. But yeah, the old trapping days, they come in handy from time to time. One thing I want to try doing here this winter too, I used to do a whole pile of rabbit snaring. That was back when a lot of these roads were still open for the oil and gas wells, and I'd be able to take my pickup, drive her down the road, and just cruise through the roads there pretty well every day and check my little rabbit snares and stuff. But yeah, everything's kind of getting shut down now, and yeah, the roads aren't getting plowed, road maintenance isn't being done, so I'll probably just have to take the sled. But that's perfectly fine with me. It'll just remind me of the old trapping days where you get to hop on your sled, spend the day cruising around, seeing some beautiful country. Except now I'll be filming it for the most part, and yeah, it'll be pretty neat to be able to bring you guys along for the ride for that. Especially when it comes to snaring rabbits. It's not so much for the rabbit meat. I definitely don't use the hide, snowshoe hair. Their hide is just way too thin for everything. You would have a hard time tanning it. I've tried a few times, once with a chemical tanner, once with egg, and then once with brains, and it does tan up, but the slightest little pull on it and it just tears because their hide is just way too thin. I don't even think you'd really be able to use it for trim, except for maybe the trim around a hood, because it doesn't get much. You wouldn't be touching it much. Where if it's on your wrist or your boots or whatever, you're constantly touching that stuff, and yeah, it would just rip and tear and fall off, and it'd be a waste of your time, really. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And also, there's a bunch of valleys and cut blocks around here, and it's kind of the same thing. In the summer, the accessibility is just not there, or it is there, but it's just terrible conditions. And my Ranger, that thing's basically like a little pavement princess. Let's be honest. Like, I don't beat that thing up. I've had it, bought it brand new in 2014, and I've replaced the tires, changed the oil a few times, and put gas in it. And I've gone through a couple of batteries, and that's it. I don't beat that thing up at all. I have a winch on it, and I've used the winch, I think, twice. So yeah, I try not to take that thing to questionable places. But yeah, definitely gonna get myself into trouble with the sled though. Yeah, and I think on my last podcast I talked about sledding into a couple of lakes and taking on the ice, so I'm not gonna touch on that here today. This week I tried to do a overnight camping trip with a survival kit that I picked up from Canadian Tire. Unfortunately, the weather just was not in our favor. I come home Tuesday night, and then Wednesday is my day to go to town. Wednesday was beautiful. Thursday the weather started to pick up, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday it was pretty well snowfall warnings and winter storm warnings. Sunday, Monday was rain, and then it turned back down to minus about -15 out here. So I pulled the pin on that. I decided instead of doing that, I'd sit around the house, do some editing, do a couple of gear reviews and all that good stuff. As much as I would love to go out and do an overnight trip and film it all for you guys as like a survival video, I really don't want that to turn into an actual survival situation. Especially like as much of a outdoorsman that I am, I'm not like a quote unquote survivalist. So like, I can go out and I'm sure I would be perfectly fine, but I'm just kind of the typical dude. I know the odd thing here and there kind of a deal. But also I want to do the filming where you're still kind of at least somewhat comfortable. And yeah, filming in the winter, it's already hard enough because your batteries die, your lens fogs up, it's snowing, yeah, whatever. Like there's already challenges to it. If there's rain during the winter, I mean, I don't gotta tell you how bad that is. Especially if you're in Fort St. John this last couple of days, you would have seen the impacts of rain in the winter. And now imagine being out in the woods trying to film yourself build a lean-to shelter, which is just a basic survival shelter. Try not to get wet, try not to get your gear wet, and then you're also sleeping in it, and it was raining at night. So I really didn't want to wake up as a icicle kind of a thing. But we'll see what happens here on my next set of days off. We are slowly getting into ice fishing season now. We've been getting a steady -10-ish throughout the day. So any day now, the lakes will definitely be frozen enough to walk out on. Maybe drive your sled out there, quad, but it'll be at least 2 weeks to a month before I'm taking my pickup out on the ice. Some of those things, I think they say it's 4 to 6 inches of ice for you to walk on, 8 to 12 or so to take your sled or quad on, 12 to 16 to drive on. But for me, I don't like taking those chances, especially if there's any soft spots or anything like that. Some lakes do have springs running through them. Some lakes still have people's sewer running into them. As gross as that might be, it does happen. There are some places where they're just kind of grandfathered in, and there's not much you can do about it. So in those cases, there could potentially be a real weak layer of ice in certain spots. That way, if you just wait till damn well that there's enough ice, you'll never have any issues. I think last year, around November 22nd, is when there was a guy out on Charlie Lake and his truck went through the ice. And then I want to say it was about the first week of December. We were out at Ingle Lake and I walked out, just packed everything out there. We're only out, maybe 100 yards if that. And somebody drove their pickup from the far end of the lake and pretty well drove straight towards us, and then they kind of turned at the last minute there and went off a little bit. But you could hear the ice popping and cracking and kind of moving a little bit as he was getting closer. And poor Daisy there, my dog, she didn't like that one little bit. She ended up getting pretty spooked over that, and she ran to shore, and that's where she stayed. She wouldn't want to come out on the ice, and it took her until probably about mid-January, almost February, like pretty almost to the end of the season, before she would actually come out on the ice and was comfortable again. But it was spooky. That guy was just an idiot. Plus, last year it was a lot warmer than this year, so it took a lot longer for the ice to actually start to build up on lakes. So yeah, that was that one was pretty sketchy there. How he didn't break through is kind of a surprise, but lucky for him, he didn't. So, yeah, good job. But yeah, now that we're getting into the ice fishing season, uh, you know, I was thinking today of kind of like where we've came from and where we are today, just for ice fishing gear. What I use now is typically, well, I got my big tent, which is a 6x12 Cabela's tent, and then I have a couple of them other. They're they're called like 2 to 4 person tent, when really it's like a 1.5 person kind of a thing. But one's an Outbound, the other one's an Eskimo. So I got two of those, and those things, they're like maybe 5 feet by 5 feet, and then the Eskimo, I believe, is about 6 feet by 6 feet. I can't quite remember, but they're not very big. I might have them backwards too. I'd have to pull them out. I typically don't use them, but yeah, you could drill 4 holes in either one of them, but then you'd have to either have 4 guys sitting in the middle with all their backs pretty well touching and shoulder to shoulder, or everybody kind of sitting in the corner with all their holes drilled kind of in the middle. So either way, it's not the greatest for more than 2 people. But anyways, I bring out the tent, I bring out my heater, bring out a lawn chair. I got rods and reels specifically for ice fishing. I got specific rod holders. I got some that are for buckets. Others you put them onto the ice. What else do I got? My tackle box is huge. I've been downsizing because it seems like every time the winter rolls around, I always go out and buy the latest and greatest jigging spoons and this and that, and eventually the only thing I end up using really is a bait holder J-hook with a little lead weight on it and a bobber. But I do have everything imaginable. Jigging spoons, those little, I always call them airplane fish. I don't really know what they are. They're kind of like a Rapala with the little wings on the tail, or they have little wings up closer by the head. And those things, you pull them up and you just let them drop. And once they drop, they kind of swim in a circle. So there's some action to them. Then there's the jigging wraps, like the Rapalas with the little beads and stuff in them. What else do I got? I got little jigs. Some with hairs, some with just the rubber worms on it and stuff like that. But for the most part, like 99% of the time, it's just a basic size 8 or 10 bait holder J-hook. And those are the ones where they have the little fins on the back of the shaft just to hold your bait on there. And then just a tiny little lead weight that I put on there, about 4 to 6 inches up from the hook. And then a bobber. But where we came from, we used to go out fishing. We'd bring a pack of J-hooks, either marshmallows or baby shrimp, sometimes corn, and some fishing line. And that was it. And an ice auger, obviously. But, we'd go out to the lake. Somebody would be drilling holes. The other person would be up on the bank cutting willow sticks. And if you're drilling like a 6-inch hole, you only need a willow that's, I don't know, maybe 12 to 18 inches. And then you just tie your line onto the center of the stick. Drop your hook and bobber, or hook and weight, down. Once it hits bottom, you just kind of spool it back up onto your willow. Find out where the bottom is, bring it up another couple of inches, roll your willow up to where your fingers are, put her back down, and that's it. There was no bobbers, nothing fancy. There's no jigging spoons, there's no airplanes, there's no jigs. It was just a basic hook, sinker, and bait. But, back in the day, it used to be like a big family get together, or friends would come out. We'd all kind of park our trucks into circles in the center. We'd have a big fire going because we'd come out there, everybody bringing chainsaws and axes, and everybody grab a load of wood, and we'd have a great big fire going on the ice. And then, pretty well beside your truck, you'd have a hole drilled. So if it got a little too cold, you hop into your truck, you roll down your window a little bit, and you just sat there and jigged out your window. And yeah, it was a blast, and it was just simple, easy fun. That's why I don't understand when people they want to go out ice fishing, but they say they don't have the equipment. And the most expensive part is probably gonna be your gas to get there and back. You can find secondhand augers, or you can buy a brand new one. They're around like $80 to $100, but I mean really, that's you buy it once and you're good for years. Once in a while you'll have to change the blades. And 1 second here. If you're just listening to this, you won't be able to see, but on the old YouTube page here, you see this replacement blades. I just bought these. I replaced mine last year, but I always like to have an extra set kicking around just in case. And I want to say those are about $30. I'm not too sure. One thing you can do too, if you don't want to buy replacement blades, is you can pick up one of those. What's it called? Speedy Sharp. It's kind of small little sharpener. They're about, I don't know, 4 inches long maybe, with the orange handle, and it's like I don't know if it's like a tungsten or something like that. It's extremely hard metal. But the one time we were out at Clue Lakes, I think it was Wade had his auger out there, and he drilled it right into the dirt and mud and stuff. And typically when you do that, especially with his, because it was a power auger, there's no coming back from that. You have to replace the blades. But I was able to take my little Speedy Sharp, and I just kind of hand tuned it or whatever. And yeah, 15, maybe 20 minutes later, he was back out drilling holes. So that's another avenue you can kind of take. But that's kind of, if you're in a bind and you're getting desperate, I would use that. Other than that, I would just carry extra blades with you. They're pretty cheap. But yeah, anyways, back to our big family outing on the ice there. Yeah, we'd bring out snowmobiles and GTs, and we'd just take turns driving the snowmobiles around, pulling each other with the GTs, or we'd be driving the pickups on the ice. The odd time pulling a GT with the pickup, and it was so much fun. I'm pretty sure that's where I learned how to drive without Inga Lake. Especially back in the day, the old Ford farm truck, that old purple thing. One thing I remember about that truck is if you ever sitting in the middle and you had to put it in reverse, you had to kind of stand up on the seat, because the reverse would come back. It was manual shift. It'd come back and you'd put it onto the seat, and then you had to pretty well shove it right into the seat to get her into reverse. And then it had kind of like that typical Ford kind of I don't know what to call it there, but yeah, it's one of those noises that when you hear it, it just brings back childhood memories. You recognize it as soon as you hear it, kind of a thing. But yeah, that was some of the best times of my life was out on the ice with family and friends. And we always had a blast out there. Nobody ever really took it overly too serious. It's a great time to bring your family and friends together. Bring your kids out, cook them up some hot chocolate, have a hot dog roast, s'mores. It's such a great time. And really, you don't have to go out when it's minus 25 and the wind's blowing and stuff. Especially if you're a Monday to Friday type of a guy, your options are pretty wide open. If you just wait till the right temperatures come along, especially up in the Peace Country here, if it's minus 40, wait a couple of days, it'll be +2. You know what I mean? So, yeah, if you want to go, just go. There's really nothing holding you back. You don't need fancy equipment. Just a J-hook, line, really an axe to cut down a willow. And man, you're good to go. You're off to the races. And then +2, you're gonna have a blast, especially if you're able to get your hands on some firewood. If you can't, I mean, you can go to the gas station. You can buy a bundle of firewood for whatever, $10. It's quite a rip off, but it is possible to do it. Or you can just talk to a buddy or get onto one of the Facebook marketplaces or whatever. There's always somebody selling firewood or somebody willing to just give you an armload. Give them, throw them $5 or whatever just to say thank you. But yeah, it's some of the best times that you and your kids can have is on the ice fishing. And and when you're spending time out in the woods too, the best memories I ever have is in the woods. Whether it's because I shot my first deer or you're just driving down a dirt road with your grandpa kind of thing, man, I have a lot of memories of sitting around in town playing video games and having fun with friends and stuff like that. But nothing will ever compare to the memories that we've made out at mile 132 with the family during moose season, or at Ingle Lake, or out at the ranch. Even little bits and pieces. There's certain little bends in the river that you can just, you just see a picture of it and it makes you smile. You know what I mean? And when you're a kid, as long as you have the right mentors, for me, I had some of the greatest ones alive. You can learn so many life lessons. You learn respect and discipline, work ethic, the connection between you and your food. If you let your kid actually do stuff and they're hands on, they can learn troubleshooting, creativity, self-confidence. There's no participation trophies out here. Some of you, that's going to scare the hell out of you because you think that your kid deserves praise for absolutely everything that they do, when really that's not how things work at all. When you're hunting and fishing, you're either in first place or you're in last place, really. You either win or you lose, but you decide on what is winning. You had a great day out driving around. You call that a win? Perfect. It should be. If you think winning is going out and shooting a deer, again, you did win. You provided food for the family. When I was, how old was I? 12 when I got my first deer. Before that, we would go to the grocery store or the convenience store or whatever. Hey, you buy pepperoni and you'd eat it, whatever. Buy a steak, again, eat it. It's just red stuff that you bought at the grocery store. After I got my deer, you open up that deep freeze and you see mule deer roast or mule deer pepperoni. And you reach in as a kid and you go, hey, you know what? This came from me. You see your mom and your dad, your brother, sister, grandpa, grandma, whatever, and they're sitting there eating it with a smile on their face. I mean, as a 30-year-old man, it still makes me happy and still makes me proud. Where when you're like a 12-year-old little kid, you are on top of the moon excited for that feeling. And it's something that just it gets in you and you want it to happen over and over and over again. You become a provider at such a young age, and then you also learn hardships. You learn that what you get out of life is directly correlated to how much effort that you put in. If you want to sit on your ass during the weekend and do nothing, you don't get that meal deer pepperoni, right? Where if you take your kid out, you put him to work, you make him put in the effort, eventually things pay off. Also, sometimes things don't pay off, but that's also just kind of hard life. Some days you can bust your ass off for months at a time and get nothing out of it. How often does that happen when you're at work? You work all year long, and at the end of the year, they say, hey, congratulations, we gotta do budget cuts, or we're gonna, whatever, knock your pay back. Well, if you're an entitled little shit growing up, you're gonna be pretty upset about that. If you're a kid kind of raised in the woods, raised hunting and fishing and trapping, you're not exactly expecting it, but that hurtful feeling, it's almost familiar. You're able to get over it and get back into the saddle and get back to working way faster than somebody who's never felt that before. Same thing with, failure. Failure is one of those things where you have to have it. The best lessons I've ever learned is from failing. I've never really learned much by succeeding, and I wouldn't want to. If I was a person that succeeded on everything that I've ever done, man, I'd be a boring person, really. And as things are moving along now, too, you really have to take it upon yourself to teach your kids some of these things. The ups and downs of being in the woods, it's the same as, just general everyday life. There's going to be good times, there's going to be bad times, and what you decide to do with that is what you generally get out of the situation. If you want to sit around and mope about it, you're not going to get very far. If you're going to learn from everything that you've done, you're going to succeed in life, and you're going to blow everybody's expectations away. But that all, it all just kind of starts with your beginnings. You can teach yourself a lot of stuff, but if you just give your kids a helping hand and start them out in this world, in the woods, a life, it's like a life not spent in the woods is a life not really worth living. It's boring. When the weather is crappy and I gotta stay at home for 4 or 5 days in a row and I can't get out into the bush, man, I'm kind of miserable. I get kind of depressed and down on myself, and then I kind of see what people are like around the world, and it's like, I get it. I see why people are like that, and it's just because they're in their own little bubble and they don't get outside, they don't explore anything. When was the last time you got onto the peak of a mountain or came around the bend of a river where you just went, whoa, look at that? You know what I mean? You can see pictures and stuff, but until you actually get out there and touch something, it's really, there's no point of it even being there if you're not out there enjoying it. Well, I kind of went on a bit of a rant there, but yeah, we'll move on here. So my dad there, I was talking that he just dropped off the sled there the other day, and he's slowly getting everything packed up to move down south, and he just came back from a trip down south, and yeah, some of the pictures and stuff he was sending me and everything that he was doing, I can't wait. There's really not much keeping me up here in the north once this kind of November hits. eventually I'd like to stay up here, do a little bit of ice fishing, kind of in the early season, but pretty well once it's like kind of December hits, I'd like to get out of here. Maybe, right after Christmas, January 1st, go south and not necessarily join them, but do some cruising around there, check out the West Coast a little bit more. Eventually, I'll have a boat down there, little liveaboard trawler or something like that. Man, I am beyond excited when it's especially when we're up here and there's a snowfall warning in effect, and it's getting cold and miserable, and Dad sends me a picture. He's walking on the beach and he's watching the waves crash in, and there's a guy mowing his lawn, and yeah, I can't wait just to have kind of like the simple way of life, the hustle and bustle of everything, and then just the way kind of things are going in the world these days too. I think more people kind of need to pursue their dreams, figure out a way to make it happen, and just go for it. Make that change that needs to happen. Take that chance. For me, it's gonna be quite a big chance, but if it pays off, man, it's gonna be just absolutely fantastic. I can't wait till I'm able to live just kind of stress free out on the boat, up on anchor somewhere, and just gonna sit back, relax. It'll still be a job, and there'll still be a job to do, whether it's filming and then podcasting and then affiliate markets, sponsorship deals, or if I have to get a job, on a prawn boat or a crab vessel or something like that, you make it work. In the summer months, come up here, do your thing, work wherever. The winter months, get out of here. You know what I mean? Especially down there, it seems like their wildlife is doing a lot better than up here. There's Sitka deer, there's black-tailed deer, there's quite a bit of grouse on Vancouver Island for sure. The mainland side of things, I'm not exactly sure what they would have there, but I'm sure there'd be something. Also, there's Roosevelt elk. That's all on a draw system, but whatever. Put your name in for the draw. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, well, you don't. There's enough deer around there. I'm sure it wouldn't be an issue to get one or two black-tailed deer. And really, a black-tailed deer, they're almost the same size as a mule deer from what I've read, other than their horns are a lot smaller. Like 120-inch blacktail is a really big blacktail deer. But I mean, really, I don't really care about horn size anyways. I just like to get some roasts and steaks and jerky and all that good stuff in the freezer. Plus, if there's only two of you, you really don't need all that much. And if we're on the ocean, the main part of our diet is going to be crab, prawns, salmon, ling, sea bass, dolly, steelhead. It's going to be a ton of fish. And, meat is going to be kind of like the once or twice a week kind of a thing. But for the most part, it's going to be just mainly a fish diet. So, we don't need that much to begin with. And worst case scenario, you can always go into the store and just, buy yourself a handful of packs of hamburger and a few roasts that you can cut up into steaks or whatever, like. We're definitely not going to go hungry. Some of the things I want to do, some of the things that I have planned are just, I don't quite know when I'll be able to achieve them, but it's one of those things that I'm going to achieve them. Like, I'm not going to take no for an answer. There's taking the Inside Passage. We're going up Desolation Sound. Checking out small little places like the small community of Lund for some reason. I don't know why. I just want to go there. I want to check it out. I believe on on the east side of Vancouver Island, there is a whale museum. So there's so many things that are on my little bucket list that I want to slowly check out, slowly cruise to them all or drive to them, whatever. Uh, I keep my bills low and I'm trying to increase my income. Slowly and steadily that's happening, but you know, I'm man, I have so much to look forward to for in the future. You know, it's one of those things where I really wish people had more dreams that they could pursue. Uh, I'm kind of almost getting impatient, but I know at the end of the day, man, it's gonna pay off, and I'm hoping I'm still doing this, and this does turn into a full-time gig, and I'm able to bring people along with me and invite people out, charter a seaplane or something crazy like that. It's one of those things where I don't want to experience this alone either. Like there's me and the dogs and Shelby and all that stuff, but every once in a while it'd be nice just to phone up a friend or a family member and say, hey, if you can make it to whatever, Prince Rupert by next Sunday, there's a seaplane waiting on you. He has the coordinates where I'll be anchored. I'm going to fly you out for, whatever, a week. Just come hang out on the boat. Maybe we'll take the boat from Belacula and sail up into Kitimat, do some crab fishing. Maybe after that, I'll drop them off, pick somebody else up, go from Kitimat up to, I don't know, Prince Rupert. Do the same thing, drop them off, pick somebody else up, go up to Portland Canal, go into Stewart. It's gonna be quite the way of life, and I'm really trying my hardest to get myself set up for all that. I like to talk about it on this quite a bit, just because I'm so looking forward to it, and I really hope it kind of motivates you guys to kind of pursue your dreams as well, no matter how big or small they are. Don't let it kind of belittle you because somebody might have bigger dreams than you. I have some monstrous ideas in my head, and if your dream is just to build own a house or to buy your first car, start with that. Go after it. Do what you gotta do. Sacrifice what it is that you gotta sacrifice, and just put one foot in front of the other. Keep moving forward, and eventually you will get there. If you want to, whatever, climb one of the big mountains around Tumbler Ridge, as long as you put one foot in front of the other, take breaks here and there, kind of do your thing once in a while. You might have to stop for the night. As long as you still make progress, you're making progress. Eventually, you're going to get to the top of that mountain, no matter how big or small it is. And when you get there, make sure you give yourself a pat on the back. Some things are harder to achieve than others. And, yeah, I'm rooting for you. Hopefully we can get to the top together. But anyways, guys, I think I'm going to make this one a bit shorter. I got a lot of things to do here before going back to work, so I think I'm going to cut it here. And, yeah, if you're listening to this on a podcast, I want to thank you. Make sure you give it a rating. Let me know what you liked about it. Yeah, and if you want to watch the video version, we're on YouTube. Just check out Buick Outdoors YouTube channel. You'll see a playlist for all of the podcasts. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to listen to it, it's on all major podcast platforms. Just search the Buick Outdoors podcast, and you'll definitely find us out there in the internet world. We're on Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, and a few other ones. But yeah, those are the main major ones. But anyways, guys, I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for watching. And yeah, catch you on the next one.